Welcome to David Dudley Outdoors, and today we're going to be talking about a myth that has been around in the bass fishing world for a long time. It's a myth that says this: when the water is cold and you're in the winter months and you're fishing for bass, or in general any fish, when the water is cold, you need to be throwing a tight wobbling crankbait versus a wide wobbling crankbait. Okay, so let's talk about what is behind that myth, okay? The myth is saying this: when the water is cold and fish are swimming around, they're doing sluggish movements. They're not, going through the water at a high speed of rate. They're not twisting and turning. They're not doing a lot of things. They're just got a slow little wobble to them. That's because the water is cold. They're not moving as much. Their blood's not flowing as fast. So in reality, they feel that if you're picking a crankbait, you need to have a tight wobbling crankbait. Okay, that's what we're talking about. So let's talk about what is a tight wobbling crankbait, because here in just a moment, I'm going to get into what a wide wobbling crankbait is and when you should throw it and what you should do, because I'm going to dispel this myth. I'm going to tell you right off the giddy, I'm not a believer in this. I'm not a believer in tight wobbling crankbaits, and I'm going to tell you why. So here we go. And I dropped a crankbait. All right, so let's talk about a tight wobbling crankbait. A tight wobbling crankbait has something, as you can see, kind of a narrow lip. A lip is typically the clear piece of plastic in front of the crankbait. It's narrow, so what's that going to do? That's going to make that crankbait just slowly wiggle, okay? Narrow lip, narrow wiggle, tight wiggle, okay? Let's talk about let's just call it a medium-sized lip. This is actually a digger made by Berkley. This actually has kind of a medium-sized lip. So if you look at the narrow lip, you got one that's a little bit bigger. And I dropped it. Sorry about that. I'm back again. So now you have a wide wobbling crankbait that, see the wide lip. And what does a wide lip do? A wider lip versus a narrow lip. A wide lip is going to drive that crankbait. It's going to drive it to where it's going to go side to side a lot more, give it a lot more action versus a narrow lip. So we just talked about a wide lip, wide wobbling, narrow lip. Now, one of the best crankbaits ever of cold water is a shad wrap. Will we all agree with that? Made by Rapala, a shad wrap. It's got a narrow lip. This mimics what the myth is going to talk about, right? Like a little tight wobble. This mimics exactly what the myth is talking about. On the contrast, what is one of the most dominated cold water crankbaits of all times also is a wiggle wart, okay? Wiggle wart. And what does this wiggle wart do? It's got a drive big time. Wide wobbling, searching, it's going all over the place. A lot of action, a lot of erratic action. That's what we love about the wiggle wart. So you tell me as of right now which one is better, because we both will agree a tight wobble catches them and a wide. So here's the question. When do you throw a narrow and when do you throw a wide wobbling? Because the myth, I don't buy it, because this baby right here, the wide wobbler, stomps their rear end. This one, a little quiet, it stomps their rear end. So you can't go with this theory at all times and not this theory, because they both play a role. So here's what I want to teach you. Here's what I want you to understand. When do you choose a tight? When do you choose a medium? And when do you choose a large in cold water situations for bass? So let's talk about that. I'm going to give you an example. An example would be, we all throw bladed jigs, right? We love bladed jigs. And you got a bladed jig, and let's say you're throwing it over top of grass, or grass is just coming up, or you're just throwing it down a mud bank or a channel rock bank. It doesn't matter. when the water is super cold and you're throwing a chatterbait or a bladed bait or whatever it is, or just any time of the year, you're going, you're hearing that blade, it's going all over the place, making a lot of noise, drawing a lot of attention, and you're jacking them. Then someday you might go out there and you're like throwing the bladed bait, you're getting a little bite here, a little bite there. Then you pick up the swim jig, which has no searching action, which has no blade, which has no noise, which has very subtlety to it, and you're just swimming it along, bam, 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 bam. Very obvious they chose the, that particular day, they wanted the swim jig, which is equivalent to a tight wobbling shad wrap, or a wide wobbling, wiggle wart bladed jig. You guys understand what I'm saying? So the concept is this: when are you going to choose a tight, medium, and large wobbling crankbaits? Okay, so let's think about this. If you got clear blue skies, it's sunny outside, not a ripple, or you maybe go way back up in a creek and the main lake has ripple on it. You go way back up in the creek and you're throwing a tight wobbling crankbait back up, the water's slick, it's sunny, there's nothing there. All of a sudden you're like bam, bam, bam. Okay, you take that same shad wrap out there and go out in the windy conditions, water blowing all over the place, all this stuff happening, and you're throwing that same shad wrap that you just were throwing in the calm conditions and didn't catch none. You pick up the wiggle wart, which is more aggressive. It's more, it's got a lot bigger presence with noise, with just the profile, and you throw it out there and you're like bam, 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 bam. Okay, which one was better, the shad wrap? Or is it a condition thing? Even in the wintertime, you have conditions that give you what they want. So let me give you just a easy concept of choosing a tight wobble, medium wobble, and big wobble. Pretty simple. If you're playing the wind, which you're always going to want to play the wind, sometimes you don't want to play the wind. Sometimes when it's slick and sunny, bass are sunning. They're up there in shallow water soaking up the sun. When there's ripple on the water, light penetration doesn't happen, and a lot of times they're not going to be up there warming. So whether you're fishing slick or windy or medium, it's kind of the same thing. If you're in an area you got a little chop on the water, not so much, you're going to go with a medium build, medium wobbling crankbait. If I'm in slick, sunny, calm conditions, I'm going to go with the tight wobbling, like with a shad wrap. And if I'm in an aggressive area or it's muddy, if I'm in muddy, cold water, I'm going to go with a lot more aggressive crankbait, okay? It has nothing to do, really, the myth has nothing to do with which one is better at all times. Our crankbaits have evolved a lot over the last 10 years, and you have your choice. So think about what I just told you, okay? Think about it. And if you comment, guys, comment and let me know what your thoughts are. Give me something to think about. Give me something that if you don't agree with what I just said, please comment. But give me a reason. If you disagree with something I said, hey, simply just... Or give me an example of a lake where you were doing something and you used a tight wobbling in this situation. Give me something to think about. But if you comment, give me a reason behind a suggestion. Give me something. You guys have been phenomenal in your comments. I love doing these discussions with you guys because I learn a lot. Hopefully you guys learn a lot by reading the comments. I appreciate you guys hitting that sub button. We're growing like crazy, and it's all because of you. It does take a lot of time and effort, so hit that thumbs up button. Comment definitely below and hit that notification. You guys have been great to me, and I appreciate everything that you guys done. Thank you for learning, and thank you for learning with me, and